My music wouldn't turn down. How are you guys?
Hey, how are you, Brett?
I'm good, Jeffrey. Hey, Rick, how are you? You got a red or a pink shirt? I can't see. We'll pin you up, and you're looking good. So, Jeffrey, welcome. Your first time co-facilitating our industry update here. Introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jeffrey Melvin. I serve as the general manager and productivity director up in Cartersville, but partner with the West Cobb office. We're a business center off of West Cobb's signature partner. So in and out of West Cobb quite a bit during the week. And my business, I also do a lot of my business in the Cobb County area.
So
I'm actually from Kennesaw. I went to high school, elementary school in the 80s in Kennesaw. So that's my stomping grounds. Of good old
you're
Cobb County.
dating yourself, my friend. All right. Rick, what do you got to say about Jeffrey? Let's give him some props here.
Oh, the pressure's on. Unsolicited. It was unprepared. Jeffrey's an amazing guy, man. I mean, joined our firm. I think it's now closing in on 2 years, and setting records as a rookie, but also bringing his senior leadership from other environments to the experience. Man, we love Jeffrey.
And very well experienced. So I'm excited to hear what you add to the conversation. Rick, your dog wants to add to the conversation. So here we go. Let's pop up some numbers because we've got some interesting, crazy numbers going on this week.
Yeah, major interesting.
So outside, if you look here at our graph, back in March 22nd of this year, we took 872 new listings that week, which was a really low number. And back then we were talking about how nervous we were, just the lack of new listings coming on the market and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden we just took 874. Now here's why this number creates such an interesting conversation. It's drastically different than the previous 5-8 weeks worth of new listings coming on the market. Are we crazy? Did everybody hit vacation time? What do you guys think's happening?
I mean, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, not within our community. I mean, within our community, within our industry, but a lot of conflicting information is out there in media and reports and news, and I think it's really starting to hit its toll. I think and here's the other thing. It's week to week, Brett. That's what we're noticing. We used to be able to you could track a month, but we're down to week tracking it and what the numbers are looking like. It'll be interesting what next week looks like.
Yeah.
Is this just a dip in June, or is it going to keep going?
Yeah, and I think homeowners put certain dates in their mind around the month where it creates natural listing dates. And we used to always say, like, January 1st is a big natural listing date. Let's get through the holidays and I'll list my house on January 1st, right? Or let me get through the end of school and we'll list our house soon as school's out, right? At the beginning of summer. Or let's get through the Christmas holidays and we'll list, all these dates, right? Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think there was a natural date in the last 7 days that caused people to wait.
I don't think so. I really don't. I think we're hearing a lot more of that. We're just going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, and personally going on different listing appointments, it's just interesting. It went from trying to convince somebody that we're going to pull through this pandemic. Now it's trying to encourage them. Hey, the movers and the shakers right now are going to be the ones that end up on top.
Yeah. And if you just look at the 3 lines that I like tracking the most, which is obviously pendings and closed. Well, our pendings jumped to 1430 and our closings jumped to 1,946. And if you just look at our yellow graph down here, I mean, we've only had 3 7-day periods that came anywhere close to that. And last week on this call, we were talking about how we were kind of excited how the blue and the yellow line, which is the new listings and then the listings coming off the market, got really close at the beginning of June, which felt like a breath of fresh air. We were going to have some inventory relief. And then last week I said, look, they started getting separated again. And all of a sudden this week, we got this giant separation between new listings coming on the market and houses being sold and taken off the market, which all that means is buckle up. As a groundhog would say, we got, instead of 2 more months of winter, we got however many more days of tight inventory coming, because the groundhog just saw its shadow, right?
And I'd add a couple things. I'd say, one, if you look back at 5/17, go up to the top again, it was still our weakest, new listings added among the other 3 weeks. Yeah. So mid-month typically can fall left or right of being your peak listing, I guess, week. Yeah. The other thing to consider, it was really June's kind of a big travel month for a lot of people with vacations, and there's been pent-up demand for that. I know my wife just spent time with her sisters in Florida, and she said that Panama City and Destin were absolutely out of control, crowded. And so maybe a lot of people were like, hey, let us get back, we'll reorg. But the thing is, you won't know for 2-3 weeks from now whether this was an anomaly or a trend. And the last thing to remember, we're still looking at global information, not micro information. And the micro market drives the perception of supply and demand as much as a macro. So it's about your local neighborhood.
100%. And, here's the thing is, we're sitting here guessing as to why the story. The reality is tighter inventory just happened in the FMLS as a general point of view. As far as commercial, not a lot of talk here. You can see they're still putting about 50 listings on the market in the FMLS, and 16 or so go pending. Not, like I said, not a lot of information going on in commercial. As far as residential leases are concerned, these numbers stay pretty constant. So is it a talking point? Not necessarily, unless you're talking to investors and you're talking about how stable the leasing market is in Atlanta. If you're a residential home investor looking to buy and hold property, this is a great rental market for stability and that kind of thing. So, gentlemen, outside of tight inventory, what's the advice we're giving everybody in the field right now?
A lot of ours is this off-market property, Brett. We're seeing a lot of people, agents. That's their strategy, is identifying off-market properties for their clients.
Right. So go ahead.
We've been working with our agents on, like back to old school door knocking. Like, what can we do? How can we boots to the ground, get scrappy, and identify some off-market property for our potential buyers? Because most of those people are sellers just waiting to find the right house. Yeah. We can work. I mean, that's where we're headed, what we're looking at. But also very interested to see, you and I were talking earlier about the amount of delinquent payments, the amount of people in delinquency in the Atlanta area.
So I've got some articles here. The housing market, the Atlanta Business Chronicle, one of the articles this last week was about the 90-day, Atlanta has a 90-day mortgage delinquencies among the highest in the U.S. since start of pandemic.
Wow.
Talking about our city. And we've been talking about this for a while in the context of, is our relief in low inventory going to come from forbearance homes and things like that? And I'm not sure this is the exact same story, but it's certainly something we need to be aware of, because these properties typically are a 90 to 180 day pipeline of new listing inventory if people don't make due on their mortgages.
I think we're going to see a lot more of those however they release it, however it hits the market. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. Again, I do think that will help, potentially could help the inventory.
Yeah, and the other thing, Rick, is how many of these properties have equity and the ability to sell if a great real estate agent would just position that with them, right?
Yeah.
They may be, or create a safe space because they may be just a little embarrassed of their situation in life. But at the end of the day, there's equity in these properties.
I would argue that it doesn't just show up overnight as foreclosures, REO properties, because of that equity discussion. I think when notices go out for foreclosure, people figure out a way to navigate them quick. And what we've also found is that a lot of the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, a lot of those institutional sellers now have backdoor strategies for selling those where they won't even bring them to market or harbor the carrying costs. Georgia's the most efficient of all states for the foreclosure process. Literally advertised 4 weeks, the following Tuesday it goes to the steps. But with so much equity, I just don't see people handing the keys back to the bank. I think there's a conversation and a navigation that'll occur that if you're smart, you're on the front end of that opportunity and in the conversation.
Yeah. And I would say if a great real estate agent was in relationship with their sphere of influence, they're that resource to prevent this from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people
absolutely
in your database that probably need some help that you may or may not be in relationship with. And it's either good or bad news based on the situation, right? Another article that, Jeffrey, you were talking about off-market property. In Inman, there's an opinion piece on the best way, 10 tips to find hidden inventory. You can read the 10 tips on your own. But here's my question. How much of real estate selling out of the MLS right now?
That's a great question. And
that's a great question.
How would you know other than?
I don't know if you would know. And it's certainly not a stat we can stick up here on the screen. But, I was walking my dog yesterday and saw a lot with a for sale by owner sign in my neighborhood where they build new construction. And I can't imagine that sign's getting less than 20, 30 calls a day right now. And I'm thinking, man, I would never even know about that sale. Right.
Yeah. That I don't know on that one, Brett. I really don't. I mean, we're still looking at, for Cobb County, we're at 5 days on market right now. So people are moving. Yeah. They're still moving. So these off-market solutions and ideas are gold. They're gold, Brett, because we've been getting a lot of sign calls too coming into the office lately. I think people are starting to try to do their own work, not rely on their realtor, and that's scary.
Well, I think a lot of skilled agents realize by the time it hits the MLS, it's almost too late sometimes. And some of these properties sell word of mouth, right? And, bottom line is we talk a lot on this industry update call about being a skills-based agent. In acute real estate markets, whether it's an acute buyer's market or an acute seller's market, it's really irrelevant. It's about building that skill set that helps you thrive in those environments. And I think one of the skill sets that helps you thrive in a acute seller's market like we're in is the ability to go find real estate off market. Be able to be in network with the agent, the listing agents that knows what's coming, be able to find property before other people find property, be able to identify buyers and play match.com to get them into houses that never even got listed, right?
Yep. And we try to utilize a lot of that in team meetings, before team meeting, after team meetings, what you got, who you got, what's, that kind of stuff. So getting connected, plugged into the market centers and business centers is step one in that. I mean, we can do all this fancy Inman stuff, but until you're actually involved in conversations in the market center, business center, it's hard to know what's out there.
Well, I think what you're throwing a little nod to the value of being in a great community, right? And the community of agents, even though we all technically, I guess by design, are competitors, those relationships matter, and those
Oh,
relationships
huge.
help you sell more real estate.
Huge.
All right. Anybody been in traffic lately? So here's my question. Is the real estate buying patterns affected by traffic right now?
Well,
Total opinion piece here.
It's almost like there was a moratorium on traffic being a concern on any level,
It
obviously.
felt that way, but is it coming back?
Oh, it's back. I picked up my wife at the airport, in fact, and it took 20 extra minutes. It was gridlock. It felt like the good old days.
So is that going to affect real estate buying and selling, or do you think that's our? Well, I'm total opinion. I'm putting everybody on the spot here.
I mean, for years, Atlanta's, Achilles heel, and I'm speaking to more urban environments of Atlanta, has been traffic and migration in and out. And suburbia has always been the better value and the more home for the money. And the question is, at what point do you trade quality of life for an experience? And spending time in your car does not equate to quality of life for most people. So the second half of that, though, Brett, is that traffic we're experiencing now. Is it just everyone getting out because they're happy to get out? Or is it, what percentage of people that are able to now work effectively from home, and how does that impact migration and home purchase decisions on locations?
Yeah. I was listening to a CEO, actually our CEO of Keller Williams, Carl, and he was talking about how he was in a conversation with a bunch of other CEOs, like the CEOs of Walmart and stuff like that. And they were talking about how their challenge is during the pandemic, everybody had to go virtual, but the companies were very productive in that environment. How do you try to tell everybody they got to come back to the office when they were productive at home, and they're looking at you going, hey, I kind of like this flexible schedule? And does it change the modern workforce permanently? I definitely think that coin shifted, if you will. And I'm not sure that there's going to be as much of an urban workforce in the future, but I think the value of relationships and connecting and proximity to offices is important. I don't know. I just saw this article and I went, is traffic back? I mean, I've noticed that it takes a little longer to get where I'm going. I certainly sat on I-75, Jeffrey, with you on our way to Nashville.
Oh, man,
traffic's back, but I'm not sure that affects real estate purchasing. All right. So what are we not thinking about? What are we not thinking about in terms of industry? What do our agents need to be paying attention to? What are the trends? What are you seeing?
I think we mentioned it earlier on, but I think knowing your stats and information week to week is a huge piece right now. I mean, I would price a property a lot differently when there's only 857 available, on the market versus 1,200 properties. I mean, it makes a major difference.
Okay, play that out for me. Tell me more.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're sitting on a listing in West Cobb, and there's only four active listings between 600 and 800 in the Harrison High School district. I'm about to be number 5. I'm going to price my property a lot more aggressively, knowing that of those 5, if average days on market is 5 days, I mean, that's pretty much a house a day. If you look at it that way, it's going to be gone. So
yeah.
From that standpoint, and then from the buyer side, I mean, our buyer's agents, man, you got to start getting creative. You really do. You can't let the excuse of the pandemic hold you back from being creative and finding property. You can't.
Okay.
Pick up the phone, get out there in the neighborhoods, get your feet going, because that's the way you're going to find it.
Love it.
Trolling the internet isn't going to help find you an off-market property.
Jeffrey's right. I mean, there may be only 850 that hit the market last week, but you just need one for each client in your arsenal. So what does it take? And how can you create a story that's so compelling they can't wait to go tell all their friends about what an amazing agent you are?
Well, and the other thing too, when you're in listing appointments right now, use this information, use these articles, use this data that we're providing with you, because this is what your people are hearing. Your clients are hearing it from the news and internet and social media. How much more value would it be if they're hearing it from you first? Be the first one with the news, with the information. Be able to refute their own made up and ideas of what's happening in the market. Show them.
Perfect.
Numbers don't lie.
No, they don't. And data, you want to talk about being a professional, knowing these things is what you bring to the table when you're at a listing and you know your numbers. And if that in that scenario you had, Jeffrey, if you could say, listen, there's only 4 listings on the market and 600,000 to 800,000 in this neighborhood. We're going to be number 5. Let's have a conversation that I wouldn't have had with you 6 months ago. Let's talk this through. Let's talk the pros and cons. And you're giving them that consultation, that advice around skill set.
Yep. And take advantage of the resources that we have available through KW. And reach out to us. If you're struggling with a buyer trying to get something under contract, there's some creative resources out there that we can connect you with, whether it's Homeward or, I know you keep hearing the same thing over and over from us sometimes. If you're on this call, but the reason we're saying it over and over again is because it's working for some people.
Yeah.
And we want it to work for you.
Yeah.
So
this is our weekly conversation to keep us on our toes as much as keep you informed, right? It's a lot of work for us to study the numbers every week too, but it's what a professional does, and we're happy to bring it to you. I do want to throw just a quick little plug. On Wednesday at 12:15, we do our Northwest Georgia update, where we go through, well, just tell them what we do, Jeffrey.
We hit the same kind of conversations, but specifically focused on Bartow County, Floyd County, and Gordon County. So we'll hit the Calhoun, Rome area. We have some of our team from up in those areas that'll be on the call as well, what they're actually seeing in those markets.
Yeah.
And if anybody's on here and struggling to figure out, how do I find this data? How do I find this information? It's right at your fingertips. Just shoot us a message. Let us know. Let your team leader know, your assistant team leader. We'd be happy to show you how to find this data so you're able to research a lot of this on your own.
100%. Are there any questions about anything we went over today? Anybody just got a swirling industry thought you'd love to just discuss with the smart Jeffrey and wise Rick Hale? Pop it up.
Anybody, anything?
All right. We may end up ending a little early today, guys. So happy June 14th. Our offices are closed on Friday for Juneteenth, and we will see you next Monday, unless you're on Wednesday.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, friends.
Bye, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.